Meanwhile, tomorrow morning, President Trump will speak at the UN, and his speech will lay out the successes of his first 8 months. Every world leader heard that and was like, at least we'll be out of here fast. All right, that won't be long.
The ubiquitous propaganda apparatus of the Democrat Party. It goes on and on. That wasn't even Jimmy Kimmel. That was one of the other Democrats that gets $15 million a year to do late-night propaganda. It's good to be a Democrat. Well, actually, the accomplishments, they go on and on and on. But I guess you haven't been killed by an illegal alien yet. But the day is young. That was last night, Jimmy Fallon. They have rooms filled with comedy writers. That's what it says on their business cards. They get business cards. They're not funny, and they don't write comedy, but they do propaganda for the Democrat Party. It is true that President Trump will be at the so-called United Nations, the ironically named United Nations. They're not united at all. It's the coalition of bad guys. They're like Spectre. You know, Spectre is the organization of evil groups in James Bond and all that. But the United Nations, they're much worse than any of the bad guys in any James Bond movie, much worse than all that. But the president will be there today, and he will talk about some of the many things. He's only got so much time. Some of the wonderful things that he's been able to do as president of the United States, notwithstanding the left obstructing every effort at making things better and shooting people and assassinating and rioting and committing crimes all over the place, the usual Democrat Party stuff. But a very good morning to you, a very fine Tuesday to you, and welcome back once again. We remain at 888-630-9625. We can be reached there. You can call in and talk to me, and we can talk about various things. The Democrat Party is a menace to civilization, but we've got a lot going on. Also, one of the things that the president talked about yesterday was autism. Autism, something the president has been talking a lot about, and RFK Jr. He's a member of the Kennedy family. And the Democrat Party now assassinates Kennedys when they come forward, too, because they're not on the side of anybody. They're just the violent criminal mob of lunatics looting the country. They're the Democrats. And we've got that. But they talk about autism and the numbers of autism that we have in the population today versus 50 years ago and 60 years ago. And the numbers are quite alarming. And the president raising questions about Tylenol being a suspect in what is the root cause? How did the numbers of people, kids in particular with autism, how did the numbers skyrocket over the course of the last couple of generations? And now they want to take a look at Tylenol. The Democrats are now pro-autism. Democrats are now pushing for more autism because they don't want anyone dealing with it, don't want anyone looking into it, using science and studies to try to figure out why autism is so prevalent today when it was not when RFK Jr. was a child, and he's talked about it many times. These are interesting questions, and if we lived in a scientific culture, a culture that knew that there are two genders, male and female, you're born a male or female, you become a boy or a girl, then you become a man and a woman, man or a woman. Democrats become a man and a woman. You become a man or a woman, depending on whether you're a boy or a girl. But the Democrats have rejected science, and they love open borders and foreign gangs and lots of crime and violence and mental illness. They love mental illness. But we're keeping an eye on all of this for you. And Kamala has her new book out, and her audio book is she recorded the book that somebody wrote for her, and she might have contributed something here and there in terms of, and then Joe Biden fell down the elevator shaft. She contributed a thing here or there. But the audio book is great. In fact, Mike Opelka sent me a couple of links this morning to the audio book that I enjoyed it very much. Yeah, and Jimmy Kimmel back on the air tonight. So much for that indefinite suspension. ABC, Disney, apparently cowering to the communists and Who was the Disney executive that shot and killed his dog yesterday? Which Disney executive was that? That didn't happen, of course. But if you're going to go around just making stuff up, like it was clearly a MAGA supporter that shot and assassinated Charlie Kirk, which is what Jimmy Kimmel did. And that's fine. He got a long weekend, long weekend, with pay at $16 million a year. So really no big loss to him. It's not like the NFL and he's suspended without pay, anything like that. The WNBA has a stricter code than ABC, the network, does. But we've got to go. And Jimmy Kimmel back on, and the rumor is that he's going to have California hair gel governor Gavin Newsom on tonight because he figures there'll be ratings and he wants to be president or something. So we've got that going. Might be Gavin Newsom, might not be. And thankfully, Sinclair, the Sinclair group of stations, and that includes the Washington, D.C. ABC station, they have announced that they're not carrying Kimmel's show, at least for now, and they have a list of demands. They want an apology and a donation by Kimmel to Charlie Kirk's organization and Charlie Kirk's family, and a personal apology. Also, Nexstar is looking at what they're going to do. They have a bunch of ABC stations across the country as well. So we're still looking to see what Sinclair and Nexstar are going to do, but we've got that. That is very much in play. And headlines today, like Kamala Harris speaks out. That's a headline. Tongue-in-cheek, I assume, because she never scorches tyrant Trump in first TV interview since January. We're dealing with a communist dictator, she said. And then she impaled 40 babies on pointed sticks around the fort. These people are mental, and she's one of them, so she's mental. Rachel Maddow presses Kamala Harris for not picking Pete Buttigieg, quote, because he's gay, that's end quote. And, she is on the LGBTQ spectrum as well. Which one is she, Michael? Is she's L, I think, right? And she's G. She's G. I don't know if she's B or not. She might be Q. I don't think she's T, except maybe on weekends. It's hard to say. But she's all over that spectrum. Need a good hosing down, that one. But Rachel Maddow presses Kamala Harris not picking Pete Buttigieg, quote, because he's gay. And then she says, hard to hear. And that's the headline there, hard to hear. But that's, I think, because Kamala was mumbling and nobody could hear her. That was another thing. Also on the subject of autism, I went and I did some looking at because President Trump said something about the Amish people not having autism. And then the Democrats started firebombing Jews' houses and things because it's what they do, and shooting firefighters because it's what they do. And here's the headline from, and this is kind of fun, the Hindustan Times is covering it better than the Washington Post or the New York Times. The headline, in quotation marks, Amish have no autism, end quote. Trump claims that the Amish have no autism. What research actually shows? That's fun. And the next headline, do Amish children really escape autism? The surprising truth. Now, why would that be? If that were true, how would you explain that? But we have a news media made up of thousands, tens of thousands of Democrats, and nobody's covering the story because they're just anti-Trump fanatics. Even the more normal ones, normal-ish. There aren't really any normal ones, but amazing stuff. And then do the Amish have no autism? Trump claims spark debate. Research says otherwise. Which research, you might ask? So we've got that. Also, did you know the Democrats say they shoot a lot of people? Just look at Chicago, where they have over the weekend. Yesterday was Monday. Over the weekend, they had 4 killed and 22 more shot in Chicago alone. Every single one of them was a Democrat. The gunmen and almost all of the people being shot, the Democrat Party. Now, we got a header here today, liberal threats. They're next. Alleged ABC station shooter. I told you about this yesterday. Sacramento, California. The ABC station there had their front windows, had bullets, at least three bullets pumped through the windows by a Democrat, of course, because they're all violent criminals. And they're next Now, who's he talking about when he says they're next? They've got notes, and the guy is in custody and all that. The suspect, the shooting at ABC station in Sacramento, California, left a note suggesting he was angry, very angry, like Marvin the Martian, with Attorney General Pam Bondi. And he said, and it's Pam Bondi, and then it's the director of the FBI, Kash Patel, and the deputy director of the FBI, Dan Bongino. And in a note there, he said, they're next. They're next because the Democrats, they want lots of political assassinations. And they've raised a lot of dangerously psychotic people that are inclined to be violent. So amazing stuff. And an amended criminal complaint filed on Monday, FBI officer Kyle Roberts, I think it's special agent, said there was probable cause to believe that, get a load of this, the guy's name is Anibal Hernandez Santana, 64 years old. He fired multiple gunshots at ABC 10 in Sacramento on September 19th. And in the complaint, the search for Hernandez Santana's vehicle uncovered a handwritten note referencing Jeffrey Epstein, because he gets his news from MSNBC. And he wrote, for hiding Epstein and ignoring red flags, do not support Patel, Bongino, AG Pam Bondi. They're next. Right? And they're next. And then he writes, he signs it, CK from above. CK. He's from above. They all have a God complex, but dog is their co-pilot. So Hernandez Santana was arrested on Friday, and then, listen to this, posted $200,000 bond the next day early in the morning, and then he was released. So he got, I believe it was a rifle, not a pistol, and went to the ABC station in Sacramento. He shot up the front of the place, and it was in the immediate aftermath of them suspending the Jimmy Kimmel show. And then the guy with the note that he's going to get Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, is going to get the FBI Director, Kash Patel. He's going to get the FBI Deputy Director, Dan Bongino. They're next when he's shooting the place up. And they let him out on bail because they're Democrats. And Democrats love crime, and Democrats love criminals. So, yeah, and then after he was released on bond because Democrats, the suspect was then re-arrested for a probable cause connected to interference with radio communication station issued by the license by the government. So it's now on federal charges that they leave out in this writing of the story. But he's got a defense attorney, of course, and the guy Mark Reichel, I think, sounds like a Nazi, doesn't he? Mark Reichel? Is it like third? Is he Mark Reichel the third? He was representing Hernandez Santana. Hernandez Santana sounds like a good band, doesn't it? But it's not. The attorney representing Hernandez Santana said he'd been charged with additional crimes after investigators discovered he was critical of President Donald Trump's administration on social media. So he's claiming it's all Trump's fault. You see this? And yeah, but the psycho, he's a Democrat. He's on social media threatening the president, the attorney general, threatening the FBI director, the deputy FBI director. He shot up an ABC station after the ABC Disney angered Democrats by suspending temporarily Jimmy Kimmel. He's back now. Isn't that amazing? And by the way, the gunman, who is a Democrat, you see, he just retired at the age of 64, but he was a lobbyist in Sacramento. A Democrat lobbyist. He's a lobbyist. Now they have their lobbyists shooting places up and threatening to murder the attorney general and the director of the FBI. Isn't that amazing? Sacramento District Attorney Tien Ho said investigators found a calendar note in Hernandez Santana's on his refrigerator. It was stuck to his refrigerator, stating, "Do the next scary thing. Do the next scary thing," the creepy guy said. He's a lobbyist and a Democrat. Dated September 19th, the day of the shooting. Do the next scary thing. And he's an anti-Trump fanatic. He is apparently an anti-Pam Bondi fanatic, an anti-Kash Patel, Dan Bongino fanatic. Do the next scary thing on his refrigerator. Yeah, who could have seen this coming? Womp, womp, womp. Oh, and anybody remember Keith Olbermann? He's still mentally ill, and dangerously so, and a typical Democrat. Got an update on him coming up. He hasn't been banned from any social media platforms, but I've got an update on him. Secret Service in New York City, where the president is, a wild story there, that's for sure. New York politics with Mamdani the commie, and boy, free speech in America. We've got a lot going on here today. We're at 888-630-9625. So questions about the rising tide of autism in the United States, and the Democrats are fighting against anybody that wants to investigate that. So now they're pro-autism because they're pro-everything bad. Pro-crime, pro-open borders, pro-transgender children being twerked in their face in the first grade, And they're pro-Keith Olbermann. Did you see this? Scott Jennings is the one conservative that goes on CNN, and he puts them all to shame every day that he's on. CNN senior political contributor Scott Jennings brought one of Keith Olbermann's social media posts to the attention of the FBI on Monday after Keith Olbermann, the longtime NBC anchorman and richly compensated, heavily awarded, decorated journalist, Keith Olbermann warned him. Now, I have to paraphrase here because he said to Scott Jennings, "You're next, mother beeper," and he spelled it out there. But you got mother. It's a 4-syllable word. It begins with mother. It ends with a word that I can't say here. And Keith Olbermann tweeting out, "You're next." Now, after there was an assassination and a memorial service for the assassinated man. So, "You're next, mother beeper, but keep mugging for the camera," wrote Keith Olbermann, according to town hall columnist Dustin Grage, who captured a screenshot of the since-deleted posts. While the message appeared to be a threat to take Jennings, to "you're next." And here's the left-wingers at Mediaite who lie when they're silent. They're typing and they lie. So while the message appeared to be a threat to take Jennings off of television, no. With another post reading, "Now we'll get the fascists off real TV." Here we go again. These guys go around shooting everybody and firebombing the Jews, and then they call you fascist. "That'd mean your career is next, Jennings." All right? Now, it sounds like he's threatening to murder him or have him murdered, to incite murder. And that's fine when you're a Democrat media figure, longtime NBC network news anchor. Jennings and many other social media users interpreted the comments as a violent threat. No, you'd think? Yeah, what about redistricting? Because the Democrats are very big on gerrymandering and stealing Congress because they represent the death of democracy. If democracy were a baby, they'd abort it and harvest its organs. Let's face it. That's just who they are. Yeah, and this Keith Olbermann thing, this is really something. He's got a Twitter account, an X account, and he shot to Scott Jennings, the only conservative on at CNN, just after the memorial service for an assassinated conservative activist, Charlie Kirk. And Keith Olbermann tweeted at Scott Jennings, "You're next, mother beeper," right? And he keep mugging for the camera. And he's got good stuff going on here. And then he Olbermann wrote in a post to Jennings of CNN, "We won, you stupid piece of beep. Last fold to fascism has last week." What? Last fold to fascism was last week. And I guess he's talking about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. What else could it be? This is the Democrat president. It's the mainstream media, too. "Now we get the fascists off of real TV. That'd mean your career is next, Jennings. And send a tape to Real America's Vote." but keep mugging for the camera, amateur. Now, this mentally ill person, Oberman, he's been fired from every job he's ever had, and he's had a lot of them in news media, NBC News, and all that good stuff. But we've got that going on because Keith Olbermann is a typical Democrat. Typical Democrat. Now, the president yesterday came out and was talking about autism at the White House, President of the United States. He's against it. The Democrats, they are for autism now. They will fight you it's like you want to fight crime, they fight against you. You want to reduce the homicide rate in Washington, D.C.? The Democrats want to prevent you from having any effect on the homicide rate in Washington, D.C., certainly from reducing it. The Democrats are the people that commit all the homicides in Washington, D.C. The Democrats are the people that commit all of the homicides in Chicago. They commit all the homicides in Baltimore. They basically commit all the homicides pretty much everywhere. You know, look at Montana. They've got a homicide rate like Sweden, but never mind that. The Democrat Party, they're not for good things. They're for bad things. Now, I've got to tell you, because President Trump came out yesterday, and where do I have? Here it is over here. Where should I be looking? Because we got Kamala Harris I want to share with you as well. But the president yesterday was out there about the autism and Tylenol and infuriating the left because now they're pro-autism. It's kind of an amazing and appalling thing, but it's who the Democrat Party is. Now, the President of the United States yesterday at the White House trotting out, and it's a bit controversial, but this is something that we ought to be looking at. We used to call this science. The Democrats are anti-science. They're anti-biology. They've got a Supreme Court justice that isn't a biologist, so she, a woman, can't tell you what a woman is. But the president yesterday stirring it up with this, raising the question about Tylenol, the pain relief drug, being used by women while pregnant, and whether there is a line that can be drawn from Tylenol being taken by pregnant women to autism, and want to look at the statistics and the science. But the Democrats are absolutely against it, and now they're against, for the first time, a member of the Kennedy family. He's in danger because of the Democrats. Donald Trump yesterday.
Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism.
Can be.
So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary.
Unless medically necessary. And the people that make Tylenol say, no, we're not the bad guy here. And I understand, because they wouldn't want to be sued for trillions of dollars and all that. But the New York Times is very angry. Trump issues warning based on unproven link between Tylenol and autism. It's unproven, the New York Times says. Well, that's what scientific studies are for, to see whether it can be proven or disproven. But the Democrat Party is now anti-science and anti-biology, and they're Luddites. They're turning into troglodytes. They're very violent, and they operate in mobs, and they're not the good guys. Tylenol, the maker of Tylenol, is called Kenvue, Kenvue. Tylenol maker Kenvue stock rebounds after Trump's baseless autism claim. That's from the people at Quartz. And CNN, Trump links autism to acetaminophen. That's the official name of Tylenol. Acetaminophen use during pregnancy, despite decades of evidence it's safe. Now, they're big pharma. You know, they advertise on CNN and in the New York Times, and so they kowtow to the corporate interests as they always have. Aren't they amazing? Yes, they are. But the president was out there, and he stirred it up a little bit. And then he threw this one out, and this got people going too, saying that autism, you don't find autism among the Amish in the United States, in Pennsylvania and Indiana and Ohio, generally speaking. President Trump yesterday.
But you have certain groups, the Amish as an example, they have essentially no autism.
Essentially. They have essentially no autism. And then the media says, Trump says that the Amish have no autism. And he says, essentially, that's a qualifier word. That's a, but never mind that. And then RFK Jr., who is, as you might imagine, the son of RFK Sr., who was a Democrat senator who was shot in the head and murdered by Sirhan Sirhan, who's alive and well in a prison in California. And RFK Jr. Is, HHS secretary, and he's talking about the rates. This is science studies. He's a member of the Kennedy family. He went to Harvard. There are buildings there with his last name on them.
Overall, the risk for boys of getting an autism diagnosis in this country is now 1 in 20. And as high in California, which has the best data collection. So it probably also reflects the national trend, 1 in 12.5 boys. This is part of an unrelenting upward trend. The prevalence 2 years ago was 1 in 36. Since the first ADDM report in 1990, autism has increased by a factor of 4.8. That's 480%.
That's 480%. He said an increase of 480%. I got to say, if true, and who am I to doubt a member of the Kennedy family? Is he a lifelong member of the Kennedy family? I think he is. And did he go to Harvard? Did he go to the Harvard University where they have, is that a 4-year school? Because I notice a lot of people coming out of that school are not very bright these days. But I'm not talking about RFK Jr. And he's raising these questions. And then the Amish question came up. And so I started looking this morning, and I noticed that there is not a lot of journalism and not a lot of news and information on Al Gore's amazing internet on autism among the Amish, but I was able to find a couple of things. And here's one. Do the Amish have no autism? This is the headline, question mark. Trump's claim sparks debate. Research says otherwise. Now, it's funny when they say it. I looked at one of these fact-check things, and they bury the actual reality of the fact-check down at the bottom of the fact-check, and you can't believe the fact-checkers anyway. But President Trump recently claimed, that was, the day they wrote this, that certain groups like the Amish have, quote, no autism, end quote. Now, he said essentially no autism, and they edited out the word essentially, which is a qualifier and modifies the intent of the sentence. But the crooks, the criminal people at this organization, they just edited that out. So he said, you just heard him, essentially no autism, and then they quote him as saying that the Amish have no autism, which is not the same thing. Echoing remarks from RFK Jr. suggesting vaccine avoidance, look, he didn't actually say it, vaccine avoidance protects against the condition, and he's talking specifically about Tylenol. Multiple studies show that Amish children do experience autism at rates comparable to the general population, though undiagnosed. The underdiagnosis may create the illusion of rarity. That is some pretty ridiculous high school writing there. But during a recent event, President Donald Trump remarked, there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills. See, he says, that have no autism. He said that have no autism. Is that a correct statement? Question mark. RFK Jr. cited the Amish as an example. The claim quickly went viral, drawing attention from social media and conservative circles, but no liberal circles, just social media and conservative circles. The Amish are a religious group that avoids modern technology and lives in tightly knit communities. While their children have lower rates of allergies and asthma due to constant exposure to farm environments, this is what they got it all figured out, constant exposure to farm environments, so they have lower numbers of allergies and of asthma. Autism is not absent. They just want to pick a fight with Trump. Experts say the perception of, quote, zero cases, end quote, stems largely from cultural and reporting factors rather than any inherent immunity. Now, I was looking at this, like, are you guys ever going to get to the point? Several studies, here we go, confirm autism exists among Amish children in Holmes. It's called Holmes County, Ohio. Research published by the International Society for Autism Research. They sound pretty reliable, don't they? The International Society, that means they're in more than one country. For autism research, they want to research autism, found that 1 in 271 Amish children had autism, compared with 1 in 91 nationally. So wait a minute. So the Amish have autism at 1/3 the rate of the general population. And they just kind of throw that away buried deep in the story, and like that has nothing to do with anything. But wait a minute, the Amish have autism, even according to people that are attacking Trump for raising an eyebrow, for raising a question. They don't believe in science. You've got the Amish have autism at about 1/3 the rate, right? Isn't that amazing for Amish children? 1 in 271 compared with 1 in 91 in the general population nationwide. Yeah, right. Noting that many families delay or avoid formal diagnosis. Yeah, that's probably it. That's all there is to it there. And I kept looking and I say, are there any other studies? You think there's some other studies? Well, I found another one. It's brainwave.watch, but they're on the case, and the New York Times and the Washington Post are not, because they just had to put an anti-Trump piece in that space. Several key studies have examined autism rates in Amish communities. One early study in Pennsylvania by a research group from Johns Hopkins University, I think that's definitely a four-year school, found only 3 cases of autism out of almost 10,000 Amish children. See, now, wait a minute. That is a tiny, minuscule percentage, and we have 1 out of 271. Now we've got 3 out of 10,000 of Amish children with autism, and that is from Johns Hopkins University, not Bob's surveys. So that's not bad. The suggested autism rate of only 1 in 3,000 compared to around 1 in 150 in the general U.S. population at the time of the Johns Hopkins study. A follow-up study by the same group, that's Johns Hopkins, looked at almost 16,000 Amish children in Indiana and found only 11 cases of autism. That suggests a rate of about 1 in 1,500, still below the broader population. Isn't that amazing? So we've got that. So why is it that the Amish, because now Johns Hopkins and multiple studies by Johns Hopkins and on, and the rate is dramatically lower, at a bare minimum 3 times as 1/3 of the general population, and then more broadly a tiny minuscule fraction of what the general population experiences. But never mind that. The Democrats, and when I say the Democrats, that means the media and the rest of the gang that they run with, they don't want to cover this. Why do they not want to cover this? Is it because they're being paid by the people they call Big Pharma? So honestly, the International Society for Autism Research did find autism spectrum disorder appeared to be less prevalent among Amish populations. Now, why would that be? They don't want to know. They're not curious. They're intellectually lazy or corrupt. Research was part of a broader epidemiological effort to assess autism prevalence among children aged 3 to 21 in 2 counties with significant Amish populations. And they say the national rate is 1 in 54. 1 in 54 kids have autism. But among the Amish, maybe 1 in 3,000, maybe 1 in 1,500. But the Democrats don't want to look at this. Why is that?
Don't use Tylenol. How harmful is a message like that?
Yeah, on CNN, they invited on that bondage discipline gay, leather and studs guy from the Biden administration, Dmitry Daskalakis. They invited him on to be their autism expert because, I guess, of the bondage and discipline and the leather and the staple gun. Don't ask. All right, let's go to the telephones. Michael, let's go to David calling from Chantilly, Virginia. David, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, good morning, kind sir. I used to teach a lot of autistic children to swim. And one of the things I learned in my time doing that, number one, I started off like in 2004 in New York City where there were a fair amount of autistic children. I did it to support myself when I was working as an actor. And what I found was, like, by the time 2006, 2007 rolled around, all of a sudden I had like over 100 kids with autism. I'm like, what's going on? This is really weird. And what I come to find out is that there's a tremendous amount of money in this, and kind of like the trans issue where there's a lot of money in it. The American Psychological Association makes money off of this. Physical therapists make a lot of money off of this. Doctors make a lot of money off of this. It used to be that you could get your kid diagnosed for like around $1,000. Now it's anywhere between $2,500 to about $5,000 to get your child diagnosed with autism. And these medical professionals continue to keep making money off of this. So, of course, there is an incentive for the left to continue to perpetuate this.
To create more and more kids with autism?
Absolutely. There is, I think that this is very much like the trans issue where there is a huge financial incentive for a lot of these organizations to continue to move forward and to ensure that, that these autism rates either remain the same or continue to increase. I don't think that there is really kind of any incentive that the left would have in terms of trying to create some sort of cure. I don't necessarily know if you can cure it, but I definitely know that there are ways in which to combat it. And I know that there are different ways that you can at least diagnose it. And that's my take on it.
Well, I like it. I mean, look, you were teaching kids to swim in New York City, 2004, the number skyrocketing, and 2006, 2007, there's something to see there. It's time we took a look at it, and the Democrats want to shut everyone up.